When I asked my mom about the Hawaii trip I'd paid $22,000 for, she said it like nothing. "Oh, we already went last week. Only for family." The phone almost slipped from my hand. The words landed colder than the buffalo snow outside my window. I had drained my savings trying to hold the family together after my divorce. Somehow, I was the one left out. That night, I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I poured a drink and stared at the frozen street below. If they thought they could erase me that easily, they were about to find out what family really costs. After the divorce, I told myself family would be my anchor. When everything else collapsed, my marriage, my direction. The house that suddenly felt like someone else's, I thought going home would make it better. Instead, it made me smaller. I rented a one-bedroom in Buffalo, with old radiators that hissed at night. My job in finance kept me busy enough to forget, but not enough to stop feeling. So I did what I knew. I paid. Every time my mom called about a tight month, I covered it. When Dad's car broke down, I wired the repair shop over the phone. Erin, my sister, only called when she needed something: rent, utilities, a new laptop for classes. I never questioned it. I told myself it was love. Over 2 years, the payments blurred into routine. Rent, bills, groceries, the quiet kind of giving that drains you slowly. I told my therapist I couldn't afford sessions anymore. The truth was, I felt guilty spending on myself. I started keeping a spreadsheet for their expenses, labeled neatly. As if organization could make it feel like control. When I first suggested the Hawaii trip, Mom sounded delighted. "We all need a reset," she said. I imagined sunlight on the beach. Laughter we hadn't heard in years. It felt like redemption. I compared hotels, chose one with ocean views and breakfast included. I booked snorkeling tours, dinners, airport transfers. Every detail was perfect. I told myself the money didn't matter. I wanted to see them happy again. Maybe then they'd see me as more than the daughter who failed at marriage. The night I booked the flights, I sat at my desk staring at the confirmation email. My reflection in the window looked tired but hopeful. I didn't know hope was the most expensive part of the trip. The next morning, Mom texted, "Got it," with a heart. I smiled back, not realizing that would be the last time she treated me like part of the family, because betrayal doesn't always explode. It builds quietly. One payment, one favor, one unanswered thank you at a time. The call came on a gray Saturday morning. I had coffee in hand and my to-do list open. Then Mom's name lit up my phone. I answered, practiced smile in place. "Hey Mom, how's the Hawaii planning going?" There was a pause. "Oh," she said finally, clipped and bored. "We already went last week. Only for family." For a second I laughed. Brittle. "What do you mean, went?" "I booked those tickets. All 4 of them?" "Yes, you did," she replied, smooth. "It was lovely, Louisa. We just needed some time together. You've been so busy with work." I could hear ocean wind, laughter, seagulls. Then she hung up. The mug slipped from my hand and shattered. Coffee pooled on the floor. I stood numb, listening to the radiators hiss like it was mocking me. I spent the day convinced I'd misunderstood. Maybe a mix-up, maybe a surprise. But the receipts told the truth. My name was nowhere on the itinerary. I had paid for their trip. They had not invited me. The next few days blurred. I went to work, smiled through meetings, signed off budgets. Inside, something unraveled. Every transfer I'd ever made flashed before me like a ledger of humiliation. One night, I pulled out an old Thanksgiving photo. Mom and Dad stood at the center, arms linked. I was off to the side, holding the camera remote. I hadn't noticed before. Now it felt like a prophecy. That night I didn't cry. I put my phone face down and realized something I should have known years ago. Love that has to be purchased isn't love. It's a transaction. And transactions have limits. The next time my phone rang with their name, I didn't pick up. A month passed. Snow turned to gray slush. The silence felt heavier than any conversation. Then Erin called. "Hey Lou," she said, syrupy. "Rent's overdue. Landlord's on my back. Can you send $2,000? Just until next week." I stared at the number on my screen. My mind snapped back to their beach photos. "Only for family. Remember," I said quietly. "You heard me," she said sweetly. Then she laughed. Sharp. "Don't be ridiculous, Louisa. You've always helped us." I ended the call before she could argue. My hands shook, but not from fear. Something colder had taken hold. Relief. I opened my banking app and scrolled. Through automatic payments I'd set up years ago: rent transfers, car insurance, phone bills, even their internet. My finger hovered, then tapped cancel. One by one, the confirmations popped up. Canceled, canceled, canceled. Each click sounded like a door closing. I called my financial advisor. I want to secure my accounts. New passwords, two-factor, everything. She didn't ask why. Maybe she didn't need to. The next morning I went to the bank, signed the forms, and felt steadier as the advisor slid them back. Outside, the wind cut my cheeks. It felt different, clearing the air. That afternoon, I called a locksmith. Can you install new locks and a camera system? Mike the technician arrived, steady and focused. He replaced the old lock with a deadbolt and mounted a camera above the frame. When he left, I watched the feed on my phone. The blinking red light looked back at me, steady and unbothered. For the first time in years, my apartment felt like mine. 2 days later, the doorbell rang 3 sharp buzzes. I froze and checked the camera. There they were. Mom, in a thick fur coat, arms crossed. Dad beside her, eyes darting. Aaron in front, phone out, lips too glossy. A man in a gray suit clutched a briefcase. I opened the door just enough to show my face. Louisa, Mom said, practiced calm. We need to talk. I'm listening, I said flatly. The man stepped forward. Ms. Mercer, I'm representing your parents and sister. They're concerned about your recent financial decisions. They'd like to mediate before this escalates. Escalates, I repeated. You mean before you drag me into court for cutting off your allowance? They feel your choices are erratic, the man said, potentially unstable. Aaron scoffed. We just want to help Lou. I laughed, short and bitter. Help? You went on a trip I paid for and didn't tell me. You don't want to help. You want control. Watch your tone, Mom snapped. They depend on you, Dad said softly. They're grown adults, I replied. They can depend on themselves. The lawyer cleared his throat. If you refuse support, we'll have to file for guardianship to protect your assets and theirs. That word, guardianship, hit like ice water. They weren't trying to guilt me. They were trying to own me. I met the lawyer's eyes. Then I'll see you in court, I said, and shut the door. A week later, a formal petition arrived. Guardianship filed by Marianne George and Aaron Mercer. Concerns over Louisa Mercer's emotional stability and financial judgment. It was absurd. It was cruel. It was exactly what they do. I called my friend Janet. They're trying to break you, Lou. You need a lawyer. She gave me a name, Daniel Price. The next morning, I met him in his downtown office. He was calm, in his 50s, with the kind of voice that carried weight. What they're doing is manipulation, he said, but we'll need to prove your competence in every way possible. Fine, I said. Tell me what to do. Employment records, bank statements, a doctor's evaluation, therapist notes. We pulled together everything. For the first time in months, I felt steady. I wasn't fighting alone. 2 weeks later, I walked into the courthouse. Cold marble echoed under my heels. Mom, Dad, and Aaron sat opposite, whispering. The other lawyer opened with a portrait of instability, danielrose.com and precise. You'll see independence, not instability, he told the judge. He handed over the folder we'd prepared, pay stubs, evaluations, records of every transfer I'd made. Mom looked away. Aaron rolled her eyes. When the judge called me to the stand, my pulse raced. Ms. Mercer, he asked. In your own words, why did you cut off financial support? I breathed. Because I realized I wasn't their daughter anymore. I was their bank account. A murmur moved through the courtroom. I spoke the truth. I'd supported them for years. I'd even paid for a family vacation to Hawaii. When I asked about it, Mom said, we already went. Only for family. I wasn't invited. After that, I stopped paying. Daniel handed over the final medical evaluation. Your Honor, the only instability here is the family's financial dependence on my client. After a pause, the judge spoke. The court finds no evidence of incapacity. Petition denied. Case dismissed. I didn't smile right away. I exhaled, the sound trembling out of me. Mom gripped her purse like a lifeline. Aaron looked like she might cry shame or rage. I couldn't tell. Dad avoided my eyes. As they gathered their papers, I turned to them once. You wanted control, I said quietly. Now you have none. Then I walked away. Outside, the cold air hit like a baptism. For the first time in years, I wasn't carrying anyone else's weight. The courthouse steps gleamed with melted snow. As I walked down, I thought about the phrase that started it all, only for family. It used to sting. Now it made me smile. Because I finally understood that protecting your peace sometimes means shutting the door, locking it, and letting them knock from the outside. Three months after the trial, Buffalo thawed. I moved into a smaller apartment with wide windows that let the light spill across the floor. The silence was different now, peaceful, earned. My mornings were for coffee, Not checking my phone for payment requests. My evenings were 4 small joys. Walks, a beginner's cooking class, friends who showed up without strings attached. The first time I made pasta from scratch, the dough tore in my hands and I laughed. It wasn't about perfection. It was about starting over. Janet and my book club friends brought wine and warmth that felt true. You look lighter, Lou, Martha said. I feel lighter, I said. Through a mutual friend I heard Erin was working double shifts to cover her bills. My parents moved to a smaller place. I didn't feel satisfaction, only closure. They were finally living their own lives. I stood by my window watching the city glow in the soft spring dusk and whispered to myself, only for family. This time, it wasn't pain. It was peace. For years I mistook sacrifice for love, silence for peace. Losing what I thought I couldn't live without taught me something simple. Family isn't defined by blood. It's defined by respect. Real family doesn't demand your wallet to prove your worth. I kept my boundaries. I kept my freedom. I kept my name. If you've ever had to walk away from people who claim to love you, share your story below.